Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are in the UK, or if you know about the weather that we've been having in the UK, then you'll know that it is boiling right now. So I don't know why I chose a jumper to film in, but I'm going to push through it because I really want to make this video for you guys. So today I thought I'd just come and make a video about choosing medical schools to apply to, or choosing which medical schools to apply to. As I've mentioned before, I go to medical school in the UK, so the advice I'll be giving may be more suited to an application made in the UK, but there may be parts of this video that actually apply to applying to places outside of the UK, like Europe or the US. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So just a little disclaimer before I actually get into the video. I'm not an admissions expert. This isn't going to be advice about how to definitely get into medicine guaranteed. This are just tips and tricks that I was either told whilst applying for medicine or I found out whilst applying for medicine. So, take everything with a pinch of salt. Do your own research as well, so you know that you're making an informed decision when you're applying. But yeah, these are just my little tips and tricks that I've kind of gathered whilst applying for medical school. By the way, if you see me looking down in any of these clips, it's just because I've written down notes on what to talk about. So yeah. So when applying for any university course, there are loads of factors to take into account. But when I was applying for medical school, I took three main factors into account. And these three factors were distance, style of course, and my personal application. And I'll expand on those as we go through this video. Okay, so the first factor I took into account, as I've said, was distance. So I've really noticed that for lots of people it depends with distance. Some people are absolutely fine with being far away from home. Some people really want to be close to home, and that's a really big factor to put into account when choosing a med school to apply to, because wherever you are, you're going to be there for minimum 5 years, if not 6, and it's just a good idea to choose somewhere where you're actually going to be comfortable. For me personally, I think I kind of realised that I didn't really mind being far away from home, which is why I applied close to home and further afield, which really opened up my options. But if you're someone who knows that you don't want to be that far away from home, I would really heavily suggest applying closer to home, which may limit your application, but if you know that it's going to make you happy, then I would say go for that. So factor number 2, the style of course. So I'm not really sure how it works outside of the UK, but in the UK with medical schools there are 3 main styles of teaching. These are PBL, integrated and traditional style courses, and every medical school has a different way of teaching unique to the medical school, but those are kind of the umbrella terms. Each medical school or each different style of teaching kind of vary quite a lot from each other, so it's important to choose a style that's going to be effective for you to learn with. So let's get into what each teaching style entails. Quickly before I start this, most of my information is either from my own knowledge or from the internet, mainly the Medic portal. I'll leave a link to them down below so you can actually read some of the articles yourself on the different styles of teaching. So the first style of teaching is traditional, and this is the very traditional, or the first style of teaching for medicine that was introduced, especially in the UK. It's very lecture based, lecture heavy, and it's split into 2 different parts. So you have your preclinical years where you're in lectures, you're doing anatomy practicals, etc., and then you have your clinical years where placements happen. So if you want to have early patient contact, a traditional course is not for you at all. You'll generally spend 2 years doing preclinical, and in the UK, if you do a traditional course, then majority, if not all, traditional universities make you do an integrated degree in your 3rd year. And then 4th year till your 6th year when you graduate, you'll be on placements. So this kind of style of course is definitely for somebody who likes to learn and can learn very readily from lectures and doesn't mind, not necessarily getting out onto the wards very early, because the earliest time you're going to get onto the wards with your course is 4th year. The second teaching style with regards to medical schools is PBL, which stands for problem-based learning. Basically, problem-based learning is all about getting you to kind of take charge of your own learning. So from what I understand about it and what I've read on the Medic portal about it, it's just sitting down with a case with your group every couple of weeks and going through a case or a problem and picking out your own learning objectives and things to read out about from that case. So it's very self-directed learning. It's not as lecture heavy as a traditional course is, not in any respect. And in fact, at lots of PBL universities, lectures are actually voluntary, so you don't have to go to lectures. And yeah, this is definitely for a teaching style for people who are very independent, who are very self-motivated, because with lectures not being mandatory, you have to take charge of your learning and really make sure you're thorough with what you know. You have to really be on it to study a PBL course. The third teaching style is the integrated course, and this basically takes a mix of traditional and PBL. So you get your lectures in your first couple of years very predominantly, and that's the main way that you learn. But then you're supported with seminars, anatomy practicals, clinical skills, etc, etc. And I should mention that traditional and PBL courses will also have these anatomy sessions and clinical skills, etc, in their own respects during your 5 years of the course. But integrated, you have all these different seminars as well as your lectures, which are compulsory, but you'll also have early patient contact. So it's traditional in the sense with the lectures, but PBL in the sense of the early patient contact. A lot of integrated courses are systems based, which means as opposed to traditional courses where you'll learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, histology in certain blocks. With the systems based, you're learning by the body system instead. So you're learning gastrointestinal or the digestive system. You learn about cardiovascular, so the heart and the arteries and veins. You're learning in those kind of body systems as opposed to learning in anatomy, physiology sense like that. And when you go through these systems, you will still learn the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry of the system, but just in that way instead of doing it all kind of at once, if that makes sense. A lot of medical schools in the UK will use the integrated course style. So if you're not really sure whether you learn better in lectures or by getting hands-on, the integrated course style would be really, really good. But if you know that you're at one end of the spectrum or the other, then PBL and traditional courses are for you. Now this is really, really key with choosing a medical school, because if you turn up to a traditional course style of medicine but you don't learn well from lectures, then you're not going to necessarily enjoy the course, or it's not even going to be effective for you to be there, because you would have been better off maybe in an integrated or PBL course where you can get a bit more hands-on, and vice versa. If you turn up for a PBL but you really wish you could get your science foundation with lectures, then it's not going to be effective. So it's really key that you research well into your medical schools and find out what course style works for you and what course styles they run as well. And what I've given you today in this video is by no means comprehensive. Obviously the university websites are there to consult. Your schools may know, if you're applying through a school, your school may know a lot about particular medical school teaching styles, and even the Medic portal, other online resources have a wealth of knowledge about different course styles. So I'd really urge you to do your research and apply wisely. And speaking of applying wisely, that kind of leads me on to my third and final factor that I really took into account. So the third and final main factor that I took into account was my personal application. And what do I mean by that? I mean my GCSEs, my A-levels, my UK CAT, my BMAT. Those are the admissions tests. If you're applying for medical school in the UK, you'll know what I mean. But the aptitude tests that I needed to get into medical school, my work experience, my extracurriculars. And I think this is a big part, one of the most important parts of applying to medical school. I remember my form teacher sitting down all the medical applicants when I was in year 12 and basically saying to all of us that 60% of people don't get into medical school first time round they apply. And that really stuck with me a lot. That means the majority of people, I'm not sure what the stats are today, but majority of the people going off of that statistic don't get into medical school first time round. And I really think that it is important to optimize your application so that you have a good chance of getting in. And there's no guaranteed, safety medical school that you can apply to or anything, but that you can apply strategically. You can apply to places that will take your application more seriously. You open up your chances of getting a place by looking at your application, what's on your application, and choosing medical schools wisely. So certain medical schools value the UKCAT highly, some value the BMAT, some look at your GCSEs, some look at your A-levels, some look at your work experience and all your extracurriculars that you've done in secondary school and in college, and even outside of secondary school and college. And it's important to look at which medical schools value what. Look at what your strongest point of your application is and then apply wisely. If you have a really, really good UKCAT but you're slightly lacking on your GCSEs, and there's a medical school that's looking really, really highly at the UKCAT, then apply there. It's what makes strategic sense, basically. And I really think that this helped me get into medical school because I applied smartly. I didn't have all A stars. I didn't have all A star predictions at A level. I'm not the wunderkind or anything like that. I'm just a normal person that looked at my application, looked at my strengths and applied accordingly. And here I am, going into second year of medical school. All glory be to God, of course. Applying strategically can sometimes come into conflict with maybe wanting to stay in a certain location that you want to go to medical school. So a good example is people wanting to apply to London. It can be really, really competitive to get into London medical schools. So in order to optimize your application and make sure you're applying smartly, basically, it can mean that you have to look a bit further afield than you were normally looking, or even just applying maybe a couple in London, for example, and a couple outside of London, or a couple in your desired location and a couple elsewhere that you feel that you have a good chance of getting into. But it's again what you have to decide for your own personal application, what's more important, being in a location you want to go to or be studying medicine, basically. So it's really up to you. I know I've already said this, but I will just say it again. These are just tips. This isn't hard. These aren't our hard facts. This isn't, this isn't from an admissions tutor or anything. This is literally just a medical student on the internet trying to give out advice that I used in my application. So don't take it with a pinch of salt, and as I've said before, again, do your own research to find the medical schools that are right for you. But these are just some of the tips that I was given and I used for my application. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, like this video, subscribe for hopefully more relevant content, and if you do like these videos, then comment down below any other kind of video that you want to see, whether it's medical related or not, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.